The inmate would tell the CO a bunch of, stuff about me, and then he would say like very derogatory stuff. And I'm like, don't say that. Why are you saying that? He goes, and he would just, keep it going, keep it. And I would tell him, stop doing that. I feel uncomfortable in front of everybody. He would, like, it was very bad. I mean, I didn't even want to sleep. Sometimes I'd cry. I mean, but what could I do about it?
As correction officers, you're on the front line of creating a culture of safety for inmates and yourselves. When it comes to sexual violence, it's important to understand what it is and what you can do to help eliminate sexual violence in your facility. Sexual violence can range from sexual harassment to sexual abuse. Sexual harassment can be any unwanted sexual advances, comments, or actions.
It's not just the prison rape. It's so much more. It's words.
The joking, the name calling.
It's touching uncomfortably, coming up behind someone, giving them a massage, and they just don't like that.
So it can range from anything to do with your gender, your sexual preference, who you date, your body image, what you look like, what you wear.
It's a major issue that we've run into is people just horseplaying, fooling around, slapping someone on the back or something like that. So if it makes that person uncomfortable, we need to know, and it needs to be addressed.
Any type of sexual jokes could be considered harassment, and that person could report it, and you could be in trouble and lose your career over what you may consider a joke.
Sexual abuse differs from sexual harassment in that it's generally physical contact, often involving a person's genitals or even contact with genitals and an object. Guidelines that define sexual violence and penalties for sexual harassment and abuse are part of a law called PREA. The Prison Rape Elimination Act, commonly known as PREA, was passed in 2003. It's important that both correction officers and inmates know what their rights and responsibilities are under PREA, because it's a tool to keep a facility safe from sexual violence.
The Maine Department of Corrections has a zero tolerance on any sexual abuse or sexual harassment, and that is with inmate on inmate or staff on inmate.
The COs, they've got the power and control. A lot of them, you take advantage of that. Like, you're gonna do what I say, and if I don't say you can do it, you can't do it. So you live under their thumb.
An officer or a correctional staff member has power and control over an inmate, so consent cannot and does not exist. And in fact, it is a statutory law in the state of Maine that you will be arrested, prosecuted, if you have any type of sexual interactions with an inmate.
As a new recruit, you're definitely going to be tested in these units. You're definitely going to hear a lot about PREA. You need to understand the policy. You need to understand that at no point is it a joke. This is serious stuff, and it's our job to maintain a safe community inside the prison.
PREA also goes as far as to say that failure to report PREA is also a crime.
We are mandated reporters by law to report any type of prison rape, any type of sexual harassment, sexual abuse at any point. So we got to take it very serious.
Correction officers can do a lot to create an environment that contributes to safety and the prevention of sexual violence, as well as support survivors who experience victimization before they were incarcerated.
This facility is no touching, so even if they're like, oh, whatever, he was just massaging me, it's still inappropriate and it's still going to be addressed.
If you're in the day area and you're running your mouth, or if you're doing inappropriate things, they're going to pick up on that and say, hey, when Officer Smith is in here, he's inappropriate, I can be inappropriate. So you need to lead by example and set the example that it's not okay.
Most of the time when we deal with an officer that's violated PREA, it started off simple, and it started off as harmless. But then they cross that professional boundary, and they continue to cross that professional boundary until they've gone too far. And then they're on the other side of the bars.
Correction officers learn to recognize tactics that can lead to sexual violence and see how vulnerable many prisoners are.
Inmates may strong-arm other inmates for commissary items, or might be candy bars or soup. And that could be just the start of setting that inmate up for more problems down the road. And it graduates potentially into, well, now you owe me favors, or it could be sexual favors.
Quite frankly, most people that are incarcerated are not happy to be there. They're scared, they're embarrassed, they're ashamed, they're feeling less than, they're feeling not worthy of respect or even seen as a person. And so already their self-esteem is down here, and so you couple that with someone that's super dominant and wants to further, make them feel that way. They're, a lot of times pretty easy target.
A lot of people go in there and have really rough childhoods and, have addiction problems, and to go in there and deal with stuff like that, I mean, that's just traumatic to a lot of people.
And being incarcerated makes it extra difficult to heal from sexual assault, and it also makes someone extra vulnerable to being assaulted again.
Just because an inmate doesn't, take offense to it, deep down inside he is. Absolutely is. So if you're joking around with an inmate and calling him any name or patting him on the butt or anything, you don't know deep down inside what he's really feeling. So don't do it. Absolutely don't do it.
Who you choose to associate with. So maybe if you're a straight person hanging out with somebody who is bisexual or who is gay or lesbian, anybody in the LGBTQ community, then that almost puts a target on your back for other inmates to jump down your back.
Statistics show that LGBTQ inmates are some of the most vulnerable. So officers need to be extra aware and monitor this population for sexual harassment and abuse.
It's not appropriate for staff to publicly try and shame the inmate about their sexual identity. And that would fall under a form of harassment, any kind of shaming of the inmate. And those conversations with the inmates as far as their identity or their preferences or even their pronoun uses should be done in an area that's separate from other inmates and has a degree of confidentiality involved.
It's important for officers to care about PREA because it's going to make your life easier at the end of the day. We play many roles inside the correctional facility. We don't just play the role of guard or CO. We play the role as a mentor, as, Kennebec, we only have mental health here for 8 hours a day. So the other 16 hours, that's our responsibility.
It all starts with the officer being really proactive and doing his checks and knowing his inmates and seeing if an inmate is changing his routine. If he normally comes out and sits with a bunch of different guys and you notice all of a sudden he's not doing that, you might want to ask a question, building a rapport with him.
Johnny's not acting right today, he's not acting himself. I'm going to go pry a little bit and say, hey, what's going on? And then you can find out maybe he was sexually assaulted or something happened.
If you see another CO doing it, correct him, because this is a very serious matter. There's a lot of people that suffer over it.